Hello, and welcome to X-Wing Miniatures Theory Crafting, and I'm your host, Genghis John. The purpose of this series is to discuss individual pilot builds as well as full lists for both Hyperspace and Extended. And for episode 1, I'm going to talk about my favorite faction, the Rebel Alliance, and my favorite pilot in the Rebel Alliance right now. He's the powerhouse of the faction, he's the cornerstone for all lists, really, at least in hyperspace. Flying in the YT-1300 is Lando Calrissian, coming in at 79 points. So if we look at the Falcon chassis real quick, it is a large base ship. Lando's initiative 5, going to be throwing 3 red dice out of a 2-sided arc. He only has 1 agility, but makes up for it with 13 health between 8 hull and 5 shields. He's got 4 natural actions, focus target lock, arc rotate, and a red boost. He also has an elite pilot talent, slot, missile slot, gunner, 2 crew, 2 modification slots, and a title slot. And his ability reads, after you fully execute a blue maneuver, you may choose a friendly ship at range 0 to 3. That ship may perform an action. So with this ability, Lando can easily serve in 2 roles. The first one being a good coordinate ship, with his ability passing off actions up to range 3. The coordinate action, which Lando does not have, is normally restricted to range 2, but Lando can reach just that extra distance to help a buddy out. But because the ability reads a friendly ship at range 0 to 3, Lando can also choose himself for this extra action, making him a very efficient, self-contained ship in a game without push-the-limit elite pilot talent. Any ship that can get 2 actions is probably pretty strong, and Lando is one of the few that can do that with no outside assistance. Flying Lando, we don't want to joust him. Even though he has 13 health, he only has that 1 agility, and all of that health can be nibbled away pretty quickly under concentrated heavy fire. Instead, Lando wants to be skirmishing. He sort of wants to kite around the action, arc pointed out the side rather than out the front, taking pot shots with a target lock, doing a damage here or there, and just being a nuisance. So let's jump into upgrades for Lando. The first one is an auto include. That is 9 nub crew coming in at 5 points, and he reads decrease the difficulty of your bank maneuvers. So Lando now has 9 blue maneuvers with 1, 2, 3 straights and banks. That's a lot of blue maneuvers, and that's what Lando wants for his action, for his ability to go off. Lando can now choose between moving slow, moving fast, or somewhere in between, of course. Some other popular upgrades for Lando revolves around boosting his already high health. So a lot of people go with hull upgrade and shield upgrade if you're playing in Extended. Shield upgrade is not available in hyperspace right now. With those 2 combined, Lando is at 15 health, which is just insane. He is a force to be reckoned with, and between the hull upgrade and the shield, that's 7 points really well spent. So this makes Lando exceptionally tanky, and if Lando is your last ship on the board, and the enemy, your opponent has already been depleted 1 to 2 to 3 ships, the rest of the list is going to have a hard time taking Lando down in time, while Lando, with his 2 actions at this point, can double down on offensive firepower. So one upgrade I would like to propose as an alternative or in addition to hull upgrade in hyperspace at least is the Millennium Falcon title, coming in at 3 points. It adds an evade action and it reads, while you defend, if you are evading, you may reroll 1 defense die. So the Falcon title is the same cost as the hull upgrade, and even though it eats up an action, I feel like that's why the title isn't often picked over the hull upgrade. Lando has plenty of actions, so adding this one more isn't going to affect him adversely much at all. And with one use of the Millennium Falcon title, it's already paid for itself in relation to hull upgrade, which, while it's a sure thing, it only lasts once. The Millennium Falcon upgrade, if you're taking evade, that's an auto 1 reduced damage by turn, with the potential for more with this reroll defense die. So with Lando's action efficiency and the same price for the hull upgrade, as well as the potential for extra damage mitigation, I think that the Falcon title deserves really strong consideration, and I think that this upgrade will be most helpful in the late game when Lando gets into those damage races, because if he's mitigating at least 1 damage per turn, the enemy just isn't going to have enough time to do enough damage to Lando. My favorite Lando flavor is another crew card that comes in Hotshots and Co-Pilots, and that is K2SO, coming in at 8 points, so pretty expensive. K2SO reads, during the system phase, you may choose a friendly ship at range 0 to 3. That ship gains 1 calculate token and 1 stress token. So with this card, you're giving Lando or another ship 1 more action. Now, it comes in at the cost of a stress, but some ships, B-Wings in particular, can take advantage of that. Lando can abuse that part of the card because he's always doing a blue maneuver anyways for his ability. So with K2SO in the mix, Lando can look at either having 3 actions for himself, 2 to 3 actions for himself, or at least passing off 2 of those, doubling his coordinate efficiency. Now, Lando K2SO pairs really well with Braylon. Braylon, of course, when he is stressed, he gets to reroll 2 dice. But with the calculate, that gives him another mod. So before ships are even moving, Braylon can have 2 mods, at the get-go. That's really strong. And K2SO is a really strong defense against Snapshot, because Snapshot activates before you take an action, but with the calculate token sitting there, you actually have that to mod your defense against Snapshot. So that in itself seems worth it to me. We'll talk more about K2SO and Braylon later. Treating Lando as a self-contained ship, giving himself 3 actions a turn. That is really strong. But it's also really strong to be able to pass off potentially 2 actions a turn. Another really popular upgrade for Lando is engine upgrade, coming in at 7 points, so it's a little bit expensive, but it's going to change his red boost to a white boost. So Lando certainly doesn't want to be double stressed. He needs to be stress free, at least for his action phase. And the engine upgrade is going to be really nice for helping him to keep up with his wingmates. It gives him a little bit more maneuverability, perhaps makes him a bit more arc dodgy. He can boost out of arc, rotate his arc to be able to shoot at something and not being shot back. That's always good. For my taste, I think engine upgrade is a little bit expensive. It's probably better in a 2-ship build where Lando may need to get to his wingmate quicker. But these are some of the upgrades that you'll see most on Lando. K2SO is a little bit new in this. A lot of people don't like the Falcon. But just with K2SO and the Falcon, that's 2 green tokens, and Lando can use his other action, assuming he's keeping them all, to target lock or rotate his arc to where it needs to be. That's just really strong, having that soft offensive mod in K2SO, a strong defensive mod with the evade, but also being able to reroll dice, potentially increasing the efficiency of that evade action. But then he's got another action to either pass off or take for himself. So let's talk about the best ships to fly with Lando. So when building a list with Lando, you have 2 dominant archetypes, +1 and +2. So I'm going to talk about +2 first. And while this first list, I have it as an extended list, it can pretty easily be modified to be a hyperspace list. So a good pairing with Lando, who in this loadout comes in at 99 points, almost half the list. You want a cost-effective ship. So in the A-Wing, we have Jake Farrell, who after he does a barrel roll or boost, gets to pick a friendly ship at range 0 to 1, and they perform a focus action. Often, Jake is going to be keeping that for himself, so a 2-for-1 action efficiency going on there. But loaded out even with this, Jake's only 39 points, so he's really cheap, and he can be a dodgy ace. He can also serve as a blocker with some extra maneuverability and just be super annoying. I like Jake better in extended than in, I like any A-Wing better in extended than in hyperspace because of these 2 upgrades, Predator and Crackshot. Predator and Crackshot also make Jake a little bit scarier offensively, so even though he's only a 2-dice ship regularly, between these 2 upgrades he suddenly becomes really potent. That bullseye passive mod attack reroll, it gets stronger and stronger the more often you're able to get it to proc. You also have Braylon, who, when stressed, can reroll 2 dice, both defending or attacking. So this is where some abuse with K2SO comes in. Braylon can be given K2SO calculate and stress during the system phase so that Braylon doesn't have to worry about getting blocked. He's already got the mods he needs before anyone else is even moving. Personally, I like to K2SO Lando and keep that action for Lando himself, but that does give you a little more versatility. And with Braylon, he wants a lot of actions. He wants double mods, he wants stress, but he wants a focus. But with this stabilized S foils, that's going to give him the ability to perform a cannon attack at the cost of that target lock. So even though Braylon doesn't need a target lock for the rerolls, that's what the stress is for. It doubles the efficiency of the stress he has, because now you can reroll attack die for not just one, but two attacks. And getting all of the actions that Braylon needs and also the stress that he needs becomes easier when you have Lando to more or less coordinate Braylon at initiative 5. So Braylon can take a focus action or whatever for his normal action at initiative 4, and then after all the other PS4s and PS5s moves, Lando comes in, gives Braylon a target lock, knowing where all of his targets are at. And then Braylon can of course turn a barrel roll into a red target lock. So if he does that and he's already got a focus, he's got a lot of mods for 2 different shots. Braylon is probably the most popular pairing with Lando. I've got him a little bit more expensively built out here than normal, but I think getting the most efficiency out of his stress that you can is worth it, and you do that by giving Braylon 2 shots. So next we have a pure hyperspace list, and while most people of course prefer Braylon, my personal flavor is Tennub, who can use stress tokens effectively as focus tokens. He spends stress to change eyeball results. I feel like it's stronger than Braylon's simply because he can shed stress and do red maneuvers for days, which I really like. He's also comes in a bit cheaper than Braylon, with S foils, 50 points. Tennub is going to want to be taking advantage of open S foils, barrel rolling for a red target lock, which also effectively gives him a focus mod with that stress. As far as a third ship for this build, lots of people like X-Wings. Thane is pretty popular, and Thane says that when he attacks, he can spend paint to look at the defender's damage cards, choose one, and expose it. That is a pretty powerful ability, coming in at pilot initiative 5. He's the same as Lando, so you have a little bit more flexibility between Thane and Lando. Lando's not so much concerned about coordinating 10 here. He's pretty self-contained. Again, with that barrel roll into a red target lock, that's effectively 3 actions for the price of 2. Lando's wingmates can burn down quick. 10 also has only 1 agility, 1 green dice, 8 health, but with 1 green dice that can be depleted pretty quick. Thane only has 6 health. We give him hull upgrade for 7th, hopefully make him survive a little bit longer. But Lando is your late game ship in this list. Your opponent's not going to want to shoot at him early because of all of these actions that he has, especially if you're keeping those actions to yourself and kiting around. You're going to be a little bit harder to get to, so be prepared to lose 10 probably first, Thane after that. So this is where the power of a 3 action Lando becomes so valuable. Before you even move, you K2SO. You have a calculate token. You can change one eye result on either attack or defense. You do a blue maneuver. You give yourself an action, probably target lock or arc rotate, and then you've got your normal action to take and evade and mitigate some of that incoming damage. In this list, Lando's going to be almost impossible to deal with as long as Ten and Thane can take out enough of your opponent's ships that Lando's not just completely overwhelmed by himself at the end. So now I want to talk about a couple 2-ship builds with Lando. And in a 2-ship build, the other ship needs to be pretty survivable and dodgy so that Lando doesn't get overrun, but also be able to put in enough damage output to warrant only fielding 2 ships instead of 3. So that's where Corn Horn comes into play. He has 6 health, the chassis has 6 health, 3 agility, and he can go into combat with 3 mods between the experimental scanners, getting a target lock at long range turn 1, FCS, his regular action, and a Lando gifted action. Or, he can double reposition and still has attack mods. His ability allows him to take 2 attacks and bounce. So that calls for R2 Astromech in here. Because when Corn's getting a disarm token for doing his extra attack, next turn he might as well get another one, recover a shield, and just get out of town for a turn. With his ability, it also really begs for Crackshot or Predator, just that extra potency when he has that ideal shot. But you also want to bring some more fireworks. So I would advocate for Proton Torpedoes, since he's going to have double mods the first turn of combat anyways at a minimum. But still, green dice are green dice. Even though he has 3 of them, let's be extra safe and slap hull upgrade on there. Lando, as long as Corn is alive, is probably going to be using his own ability on Corn, either giving him a focus or an evade before Corn moves end up where he is. Maybe he needs to do some repositioning. So Lando should K2SO himself always, and then of course he has his regular action. So for our last list today, we've got 2 big ships, expensive, so neither one of them have a lot of upgrades, but we're going to be bringing Dash Rendar to the party. Dash is going to throw 4 attack dice as his primary attack, which is a lot, and he actually prefers to be at long range because he loses a dice at range 1. So Dash, we want him throwing a whole lot of dice as many times as possible, so we're going to give him Bistan, which says as after you perform a primary attack, if you are focused, you may perform a bonus turret attack against a ship you have not already attacked this round. Wow, so Dash can throw 4 attack dice at 2 different ships. That's really going to keep your opponent on their toes, and to ensure Dash is going to get that second shot, we want him to have Perceptive Co-Pilot, which is 2 focus tokens for the price of 1 focus action. That allows Dash to spend a focus on an early defense or on his first attack and still have one to be able to use Bistan for a second attack. You will notice on Lando that we have hull upgrade instead of the title. That is because as long as Dash is alive, Lando should be giving Dash focus actions so that when Dash moves and sees where everyone is at, he can either target lock or rotate his arc to where it needs to be and just throw a whole bunch of dice. So Lando is certainly a support ship first and foremost in this role. Dash is a bigger threat. Your opponent is going to want to get in there and muss him up a bit. So you actually want to keep Lando somewhat between the opponent and Dash. Dash doesn't want anyone getting in close. He wants to be throwing 4 attack dice, long distance, and just ruining people's day. That's all I have for you today. I hope that you got some new ideas on upgrades to load out on Lando and wingmates to field on a mat with him. Test these lists out. Let me know how they go in the comments. Next time we'll be visiting the Galactic Empire faction and discussing Inferno Squad. Thanks again for watching. I look forward to seeing you on the next episode of X-Wing Miniatures Theory Crafting with Genghis John.